Hello, this is Andrea Maury of Drea Renee Knits, and today I'm gonna be demonstrating how to knit an I-cord. I recently released a new hoodie pattern that needs an I-cord drawstring for the hood, so I thought it would be a good time to show how I like to make one. I have a circular needle here because we're going to be sliding the stitches instead of turning our work at the end of each row. A double pointed needle also works really well. And I also have a little tapestry needle because I want to show you how I like to weave in ends. So I'll demonstrate that if we get enough of an I-cord knit up for me to show. All right, so we are going to start by just casting on 3 stitches. You can use different numbers of stitches for your I-cord. 3 is just a really good default number. So first I'm going to start, I am going to use the long tail method. You can use your preferred cast on. And when I cast on stitches, instead of starting with a slip knot, I like to do what I call a little loop-de-loop. So if you're new to this, I'll show it to you just in case you want to try it. And so I have my yarn that's attached to my yarn ball going over my pointer finger, and then I have the tail end of the yarn going over my thumb. And I'm just holding those in my bottom 3 fingers and then opening up a triangle with my thumb and forefinger. So I'm already in the position I want to be in for when I do my long tail cast on. So to do this little swoop-de-swoop twirly girl method, I just go ahead and take my needle tip and place it right on top of the yarn. And then all you do is rotate it down and around. And that is going to be my first stitch. So I'll show that one more time. It's really simple. You're just placing your needle tip on top of the yarn. And then I rotate down and around. And that's my first stitch. And now I'm just going to cast on 2 more stitches for a total of 3. Just going to let you all know it is Saturday here and my kids are playing in the other room, so there might be some background noise in today's video, but we gotta do what we can do. So now instead of turning my work, so a lot of times if we cast on, we would now turn and knit across these stitches. But whenever you're working an I-cord, what you wanna do is you always wanna have, when you're beginning a new row, you wanna have your working yarn coming out of the stitch that is the furthest away from where you're going to start knitting. So that's why we use either a circular or a double pointed. So I'm just gonna go ahead and slide my stitches down to the other end instead of turning. And now my working yarn is coming out of my 3rd stitch instead of my 1st stitch. And this is what's gonna create this little bit of knitting to turn in on itself and create that I-cord tube that we're looking for. This first row I'll demonstrate English style. The next row I'll demonstrate continental. It really doesn't matter what way you knit. It's gonna work either way. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just pulling the yarn from that 3rd stitch, just pulling it over, and I'm going to just go ahead and knit 1, 2, 3. And now again, I'm not gonna turn. I'm going to slide. And you know you've done it right if you're ever like, sometimes we go into autopilot when we're working. So if you're ever like, I don't know if I turned or not, you'll know it's in the right position if your yarn is hanging out in your last stitch, not your 1st stitch. All right, so now let's show it continental style. Continental is when you hold your working yarn in your left hand. English is when you hold that yarn over in your right hand. All right, and now let's go ahead and just knit these 3 stitches. Again, I'm pulling that yarn over from that 3rd stitch. Okay, and now don't turn, slide your work down. And we will knit those 3 stitches again. I knit both styles. For some reason, I find little things like working with 3 stitches feels a little more comfortable English style for me. So sometimes I revert to this style, but it really doesn't matter which way you knit. You just work across those stitches. Now, can you see how I'm only about 4 rows in and already it's creating that cute little tube? And that's because we're pulling the yarn from the end of our stitches. Okay, my little yarn ball wants to keep coming towards me. So again, my yarn is over here on my third stitch. I'm just gonna pull it over and knit across all three. And then slide my work back down, knit across all three. So you can see how this would be really efficient with double pointed needles. Sometimes I pull out my DPNs for that because it's just a shorter distance to slide those stitches. So it's a little more efficient. But either way works. And if you only have straight needles, that's totally fine. What you would do is you would knit across your stitches. And then you don't turn, you don't slide, you would just slip them right back over to your left-hand needle and then knit them again. And do you see how that puts your yarn where you need it? So that's another option too. And you might even find that quicker depending on just your personal preference. You can absolutely just go slip, slip, slip. One thing to keep in mind is make sure you slip those stitches purlwise. If you use that method, don't slip them knitwise because that would put a twist in your stitches. So if you're like, wait, what are you talking about? So what that means is when I'm slipping, I am inserting my needle as though I was purling and just slipping them right across so that you're really just passing it from one stitch to the next. What you don't want to do is accidentally get, sorry, there we go. You don't want to accidentally like go in at an angle that would twist your stitch. So you just pass them from one needle to the next. All right, I think we got enough length here where I can show you how to weave in that end. So here's my little I-cord. You can see that I'm forming. They're so cute. Okay, now I am just going to take my darning needle or my tapestry needle here, thread my yarn tail onto there, and then all I do is insert my needle to go up through, sorry, that was twisting on me. I'm gonna bring it back here. Through the middle of my I-cord. So you can see the gold in there. So I'm just going right up the middle. And then I pull my tail in. And then what I like to do is like give it a little bit of tug so it's pulled a little tighter than you actually want it. I would then cut it right there and then you can stretch your I-cord back out and it'll suck that little bit in there. And that's it. And then your end is all woven in, which I just love how easy it is. So tidy. So there you go. That is how I knit an I-cord, which I'm going to use for a drawstring on a hoodie. Happy knitting.